So today we had our first day of our 5-week ladies beginner golf series, and typically at least one person shows up to class with clubs that could be 30 plus years old. So I always like to start off with the ladies and explain the difference in technology, and I usually can show them a comparison of an older driver to a newer driver. But I think it's a good question. When is it a good time to buy a new set of clubs? Is it hurting them? Is it hindering their progress? So I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk about that.
Okay, so when we see people come out with older clubs, one thing that we tend to see with almost every set of like the hand-me-downs or someone's attic clubs or whatever,
right,
is the grips tend to be bad, right?
Yeah.
So like these, I think, are rental clubs. They might have decent grips on, but yeah, this one isn't the greatest grip. So the grips tend to be bad to the point where a lot of them are dry rot. A lot of them, if I don't even want to pick their club up to show them anything with it because the black stuff gets all over your hands. So right off the bat, if you want to play golf and you have the hand-me-down clubs, there's a very high probability that the grips are going to need to be replaced for you even to do anything with them.
Right.
So you're looking at, $150 roughly to get them re-gripped. So think about that, right? So your free set of clubs that may not fit you that well, right off the bat, might need $150 worth of work.
Correct.
Then we get into the technology and the performance of the clubs, right? So when we look at this driver that you showed me, okay, if you look at the head on that, all right, now never mind, this isn't that important. Like you can see here, like it's kind of worn out there, like it's been beat up a little bit. You can see that. That doesn't really affect too much performance-wise, other than it's not a lot of fun to look at, right? But look at that head. And then look at this one. Okay, so this club this is from our pro shop, and this is the Tour Edge hot launch. It is not like I would call the pro line version Tour Edge club. This is much less expensive. This is a $239 club.
Brand new.
Brand new, I believe. It's got to be titanium. I'm not positive, but I think it's probably titanium. This is a club that is going to give you a beginning golfer, a newer golfer, the same performance as a $500 driver. It just will if you're a brand new golfer.
Right.
This is another example of things that we see come out, right? So this is an even smaller driver, and you can see if you look at the shaft is bent going in there, right? So that's another club that's pretty much useless. So these are the types of things we see when people are using the hand-me-down clubs.
Right.
So the next option is used clubs, right? So you could buy used clubs on eBay, which may not be a bad idea because in eBay they'll do a good job of explaining the condition. And a lot of these used club sellers on eBay, they even have a rating system. So a 10 would be as good as new. A 9 would be almost as good as new. A 3 would be a club that's nowhere close to new. So you could buy used clubs through eBay that are going to be in really good condition, much less expensive than buying new ones.
And when we're talking about used clubs, we're probably talking maybe technology that's 15 to 10 years and newer, right?
Right.
Anything older than that.
So like this sort of thing, golf's just going to be more fun without this, right? So yeah, a 10-year-old club that hasn't been used is going to be a pretty good club.
Right. I mean, my driver is actually about 88 years old now.
Right. Now, your driver was this type of a club when it was new.
Right.
So it was a couple $100 less than the state of the art, and you're still using that club, and
I hit it
quite well.
Yeah, I hit it well.
Now we're not doing this to plug, say, Tour Edge. Tour Edge, though, does make very good golf clubs at a lower price point.
Right.
So that the Tour Edge line and that Bazooka line is a really good product, but it's less expensive than their Exotics line. Their Exotics line is like the premium, the same that the high-end Callaways and Pings and Titleist and all that stuff.
And that's really not something you need to even think about if you're in your first years of playing golf.
No, but I will say this, you may not get this, but us guys get this. Sometimes you just want the tailor-made Sim 2 driver. Like, sometimes you just want that, right? And if you're going to have more fun with that, then that's up to you to do that.
And another thing I noticed in looking at some of these used hand-me-down clubs from some of these ladies is that a lot of these old hand-me-down sets have gratuitous clubs that they do not need.
That's a great point. So for ladies, especially ladies and juniors, think about this. We have a set of clubs where, for example, I have about 12 yards in between my clubs, maybe 15 yards in between my clubs. Well, someone who swings the club a lot slower than me, a beginning golfer, a woman golfer, they're going to have a smaller gap. Mm-hmm. So like with you, what we did when you started was we got you every other club in the set.
Right.
And then once you got a handle for it and you started becoming more skillful, you went ahead and you got a full set. We filled in the gaps, actually.
Right.
And then you end up getting another set after that.
Right.
Right? So that's a great point, that most people don't need every single club in the set. They could go every other club and do really just fine.
And they certainly don't need long irons.
Correct. You want to go with hybrids, and so you could have one hybrid, like a 4 hybrid, that could replace a 3-iron, a 4-iron, and a 5-iron.
Right.
Right? So that's the way to go with that. So we've got the brand new clubs. We've got eBay, used clubs. You can also get clearance clubs that might be a year or two old that have never been hit. Mm-hmm. So that's like going into the car dealership and you buy like the leftover model car and they want to get it off the lot, so they'll sell it to you at a great deal. So that's another thing you can do, is you can buy clubs that were just laying around and they got put on clearance. They've never been used, never been hit. They might still be sealed up in the box. I bought a set of irons like that a few years ago.
Right. And then I don't know if Play It Again Sports is a local chain, but that's a used sporting goods type place where somebody may have gotten their wife a set of clubs and she really didn't want to play, so they...
Yard sales can be good for that too. But the only thing about the Play It Again Sports and then the yard sales, like, I personally don't want to go shopping around like that. I would rather get online and pick something out. Another thing you can do is get with your, I hate to tell everybody to go get with a golf pro and start taking lessons if they don't want to spend that kind of money. But if just a quick question and answer session, if you're roughly average height, right? You can probably use standard size clubs. If you're really tall, you're going to want clubs that might be a little bit upright. If you are shorter, you might want clubs to be a little bit flat. You can buy clubs that have upright, standard, or flat lie angles on eBay. They could be used clubs, or they could be like the leftover clubs, right? So those are some great ways to go about getting some good equipment. If you're a beginning golfer especially, I believe you would have a lot more fun playing using a little bit better equipment than going with this thing right here.
Right, and then as the technology improves, the game improves, right? Like, people are playing better golf in part because the technology has made it so that clubs are more forgiving.
Yeah. I would say, though, I don't care, anybody, unless you're playing golf for a living, if you can get your hands on 3-year-old technology, it's going to be great. Absolutely. Like, I think year to year, I don't think you can, it's like the iPhones. Like, I can't tell the difference one year to the next. Maybe 5 years I could tell the difference.
Maybe.
It's kind of like that.
Right.
Right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Great.
I think that's great. Great summary, Mike Sullivan.
Okay. I hope that helps.
We'll see you next time.